All right, guys, let's get into this. So, yeah, I'll put a little title in there. All right, I'm gonna start over here. Um, Trying to think. Where am I gonna edit at? Am I gonna edit in StreamYard? Anyways, hmm, something to think about. What's easier, editing in StreamYard or editing in YouTube? Yeah, that's a question. All right, time to start over. Well, I'm going to test it. For this video. I'm going to test it. Okay. All right, let's get into it. So we're going to have do a little commentary on a video I was watching earlier, and this is by a YouTube channel called Sweep Sweep the Rack. Yeah, that you know, I had it in my head and it just went away. Anyways, um, yeah, so they had a couple of interesting topics that they're discussing, and so I just wanted to kind of add my 2 cents, because I think discussions like this are actually very important. Even though they're kind of taking it casual, and I like their content. I like their show, and whenever they upload something, I watch it all the time. So I like what they have to say, and so um, you know today they uploaded a video. I think their topic was, well, the video topic or the title was, based off of the World Series of Bowling. So, the PBA tournament that's actually just started, a few days ago. So, so this one area, of the video came up that I found pretty interesting, and what they're talking about is, why isn't it that higher end bowlers are seeming to stay away from sport conditions and seeming to not promote the sport in by going out and finding new bowlers, and so, which I think is a good topic to have. Why is it that higher end bowlers seem to not at least have the appearance of not seeming to bring in, new bowlers? And I think what may be missing here a touch is a little bit of the nuance is that a high end bowler is really not going to recruit a beginner bowler, especially if that higher end bowler is already in or is in competing in higher end leagues. And generally, you don't see new bowlers going into higher end leagues. So it's a little subtle nuance, that they didn't really bring up. But I'll continue on with my thoughts. I'll go ahead and bring this up here, and we'll play it and see what they're saying.
This is why I'm saying what I'm saying. Like, shouldn't the sport capable players who are going to be your higher average players almost regardless, right? But shouldn't your sport capable players be in those leagues and be recruiting people to those leagues through their ability level and through the idea that
All right, I'm gonna cut that out. What did I go back to? Another editing at 3.
like, it's like the higher average guys pick who they want on the players always smitten when a higher average player comes and asks them to bowl. Yes.
Lane 35 to bowl the sport league. Like, should I become an advocate for sport bowling?
Yes. I think that's exactly
why
what
should I take up my own time to do that?
Well, no, because you're bowling the league. So you should want the league to be good. You should want the league to grow because you're bowling.
Should I advocate become and 35 teams and hand out flyers?
They kind of want the league to give a world on their team. There's almost those leagues and be recruiting people to those leagues through their ability level and through the idea that people want to bowl with somebody that is considered a good bowler?
Um, I think you're relying on bowlers to promote sport bowling,
I am.
and it's not going to happen unless you make some kind of incentive for these people to go do that.
Like, to me, and again, I know we didn't mean to get off on this track, but
Yeah. So basically, if you're going to watch their website, I mean, go and watch this video. I'll link their video, in my comment section or in the description. And so you can kind of get a full gist of what they're saying, about other bowlers promoting other bowlers or new bowlers or just, um, they really didn't specify new. Kind of like what I was saying earlier, the nuance of, high end bowlers just not going to go out and, bring in new talent or new bowlers, especially into a sport league. They have a better chance of bringing in someone into like a Vegas league. I mean, for us, I don't know what you guys have the equivalent of out there. For us, the Vegas league is basically, they sweep in Vegas, and so, that seems to gain a lot of traction out here, on the West Coast, where especially they call it like Mega Vegas League or Mega Leagues or Mega Vegas or something to that effect, and so they actually get 3 or 4 or 5 leagues, kind of throughout a general area to all sweep at the same time, and they can kind of intermingle, some of their, like maybe high game pots or sweep, whatever's included, so it's an opportunity for some people to have a lot of fun and obviously hang out with the bowlers that they bowl with, but meet other bowlers or just see other bowlers, maybe they know them or whatever, in Vegas. Sometimes they'll do it at I know that sometimes they have it at Sam's Town and Gold Coast and one of the station casinos that have lanes, and the Orleans. So anyways, doesn't matter where. So I think, out here, the Vegas leagues, tend to do pretty well. They seem to, keep bowlers, which is the important thing that we're trying to do, is keep bowlers, because we're having a very, very hard time keeping bowlers. The stats are just going backwards, and they just continue to go backwards. Yeah, there's maybe been some level of, maybe a little bit of an uptick, and sometimes when people say it's like, oh yeah, it's been on the rise for the past, 4 or 5 years. And it's like, yeah, but you got to realize that you took a big hit in COVID. And so, yeah, maybe some people are coming back, that didn't bowl during COVID. Am I allowed to say COVID? I don't know. So much crap was going on with social media and stuff being deleted or blocked or shadow banned or whatever. So, anyways, yeah, so I kind of lost my point there, about bowlers coming back and finding new bowlers, and as far as what Big Mike is saying about, where hey, how about these higher end guys, bring in some new blood into the sport, and I think it's going to be difficult to do, from a beginner level. I do think it's possible and doable to kind of go throughout the, maybe go, higher end bowler goes and bowls a Vegas league and kind of identifies, 2 or 3 bowlers or 4 or 5, whatever, 10 bowlers, and start talking to them about, hey, we're having a lot of fun over here at this, sport league or scratch league or whatever. For myself, I just finished up a league. It was a trio scratch league, pretty competitive. Some of the teams kind of get whacked, but that happens in every, scratch league. And then, a couple of the teams, tend to take off with it, but it's pretty competitive. People seem to have a good time. The scoring pace, it is a house shot. But for some reason that particular bowling center, if you're not throwing at 22 miles an hour with, 500 rev rate, the carry percentage is very low there. It's actually one of the lowest that I've come across in quite some time. Unless unless you got a really high end, basically two-handing it, with a lot of revs and a lot of speed. Besides the point. So, anyways, later on, as I'm watching this, something else was brought up. And I'm going to try and get over there.
I have to ask this because, like there's a lot of people that pop into this chat, like Ian Lang, like your brother, like others that we see and we know in the chat that we bowled with and against, and no person.
So I'm going to kind of fast forward because I want to get to this point that really made me laugh, and I just can't believe that. Well, I know what's out there. I know the thought, the mentality, the truth. Really, that's what it is. The truth about what we're experiencing, about what house shots are with these atomic bowling balls. They're just a joke now. I mean, it's basically bled over to the tour. Frankie Lavoie, averaged 280 for a block. It's like, I realize you can't compare league bowling to professional bowling, and completely get it. However, 280 for a 6-game block, come on. That's not good for the game at all. And then we've had these these other channels, talking about, oh, more strikes is exciting. It's great for the sport. And I'm listening to this channel and I'm just thinking to myself, are you effing blind? It's like, the more perfect games we have, the less bowlers we have. That's been the trend. The more perfect games, the less bowlers. And they don't get it. These industry people just don't get it. More perfect games, less bowlers. You tell me, and be honest with yourself. And Big Mike, is I don't know if he meant to tell the truth, or if he's felt like this, or if he slipped up. I don't know where he fits in the industry. If he is an industry guy, I don't know. If he sells bowling balls or lane machines or pin machines or lanes, whatever. I don't think he's an industry guy, but whatever. So let me play this.
That it blows my mind.
I'm going to fast forward to the point that I wanted to get to here. So let me see.
We don't have these lower average players. You want to have us to make this point, because each one should
have a league. What's the incentive for these bowlers to make a?
It's coming up. And I just can't believe. I'm stunned.
Other league and bring them over to bowl.
It's higher level because it's the real version of the game. That's why.
It's the real version of the game. I mean, it's just stunning. It's just stunning to me. That industry people just don't get it. And it's just what's happening. I mean, what's USBC doing? I mean, the PBA, they're there for the entertainment purposes. That they're there to attract advertisers and to get prize money as big as they can make it. So that the pro bowlers can, earn a decent living. I would be surprised if there's, if there's 10 guys out there, actually head of a household, type of thing. I'd be surprised. If there are, great, and whatever. But Big Mike, real version of the game, sport bowling, real version of the game. For it to be said out loud is just, I'm glad. I'm happy. I'm glad, he said it. And, anyways, I was trying to make this a little bit of a shorter video, but we'll, I've got some editing to do. I think I'm going to cut out a couple of minutes here because, whatever. You guys don't need to hear that, but Anyways, I'll see you guys around and keep striking.